Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Michael Panozzo, welcome back, sir.
Sure. Always good to be around.
Where you been, man? I ain't seen you.
Just spent a lot of time in Green Bay, Wisconsin,
Well,
hanging with the football players.
if you ain't watching the Bears and the Packers, then I'm disappointed, Mike.
I was up there for Women's World 8 Ball, turned around, came home, went back up there for the Professional Women's Bowling Association anniversary tournament final, which was fun. We had about 6,500 attendance in this arena there in Green Bay where they have basketball, things like that. And so, yeah, it was been a busy week or so.
Looked like the real deal out there. I got to catch your social media post, which was awesome. And yeah, I just been doing a lot online, especially the last couple of days. But then today was a little different, Mike. Waking up this morning and hopping online, and I was just I was in shock, blown away, saddened, and heartbroken, if I'm being honest with you. And I saw your post about Cheng Jun Lin, the couple that you had on from Billiards Digest, and what can you tell us about what happened, Mike? Do you know anything?
I've just been getting bits and pieces, from people about what's happened. But apparently, he was in a round of 64, played an Indonesia player in the morning and won 2-0, and apparently wasn't feeling great and went back to home. Didn't show up for his next match. So from what I understand, he was rooming with Hugh Chan Liu, who was a junior champion, and I'm assuming that he went back to check on him or to check the room or whatever, and found him because he posted something on his Facebook page referring to being in the ambulance with them when they were taking, Chang to the hospital, and then
that's just a whole other layer to this. How old was that kid, Mike?
I'm not 100% sure how old he is. I don't remember when he was in the junior championships, but yeah, just it would appear to be a heart attack, stroke, that type of thing. Yeah, just really, really sad news. I mean, it's been a long time, feels like to me. I apologize if I missed something really obvious, but since we've lost a player kind of in their prime, still in the tournaments, at the tournaments, certainly since we've lost someone at a tournament. Yeah. I mean, that's a jarring thing. I feel so bad for all those players at the Indonesian Open, who just, it can't be a lot of fun playing over there right now. Just bad all around. I mean, you're talking about, universally recognized as one of the great players of the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's a monster in Asia, and in the last, 10 years ago or so, spent a fair amount of time playing in the big tournaments in the U.S. as well. So a lot of people got to play him, see him play. Really kind of a shocking thing. I mean, he was 40 years old. There was something about him when you watched him trudge around the table, whatever. He always looked like he was born 40. But
yeah.
he just had a look about him. But he was just 40 years old. I mean, so just terrible shock. Obviously his playing resume World 8-ball champion when he was 26. Won that event in the United Arab Emirates. And then, had more success, in the late teens, won the International Open, beat Little Co in the final of that. I remember he was down like 11-7, ended up winning 13-11.
Was just
that was the first
was in a
time I saw
final.
him.
Yeah, his last world championship final was against Federer.
Against Federer.
Ironically,
Yeah, against Federer. Same score, 13-11. And at the International, it was actually the first year of the International after the U.S. Open was taken over. It was the first time I saw him kind of like break character. I mean, it was a really tense final, and he was playing Co, and it got to the last rack, and he just stood up and he just let out this big scream, like he was like trying to shock the audience into realizing that he's alive and they can wake up and cheer and whatever. It was it was really it was really pretty funny. And you talk to a lot of people that there's a lot of language barriers with him, with a lot of the other players, but to Emmanuel said that he was sneaky funny. Kind of a jokester, that type of thing.
And you wouldn't know it looking at him on the table, unless, like you mentioned, unless he'd break character, and because he was so he had such a big shadow, and was very intimidating, and mentioning that he looked 40, that was like the first thing I thought. I was like, he's 40 years old. I thought he looked 15 years ago, you know what I mean? And so but he never aged, which was the ironic thing. And
you always look the same. Like I said, you look like he was born 40.
Yeah.
So and I remember he won the doubles with Rita Chow. And did they win world team? I just remember him being in a shootout. I think they lost to.
I think it was the
Germany,
mixed doubles,
right?
wasn't it, Mike? Because I think.
Well, he won.
They did lose to Germany. Yeah, you're right.
Right, and when we were doing spot shots, and he made one, and he did a kind of big step jiggle type of thing. He would just do something every once in a while, completely out of character, for us who watch him most of the time, which kind of gave him kind of this endearing quality of he got a little bit of playfulness in there, but you talk to a lot of players, and I'll say what an absolute perfectionist he was at the table. That his whenever I was former player, former Team USA captain, longtime instructor and coach to a lot of pro players. Whenever you talk to him about the right fundamentals and the right way to approach a shot, and always taking the right shot, and always having your pre-shot routine, and staying with an organized plan, the first name he always brought up was Cheng Jun-Lin. He was a monster player. We all remember his long set against Shane. The race to 100, was it a race to 125 or 150 or something like that? It was crazy.
Yeah, it ended in dramatic fashion, but like at the time, the casual fan didn't necessarily know who Cheng was. They all had only heard about what what his reputation was like, and that was something like for me as an American fan, following international pool, and I mentioned this on a post earlier, was like, man, he was the one that like really stood out amongst the Taiwanese players for me, because I wasn't around in like in Yang's time, you know what I mean? Obviously I heard about him and knew of him. But like even in the moment when like, and this is when like Ko Ping-Yi's winning, 2 world championships in the same year, and little brother wasn't, the guy who put up 99-0 in terms of ball count against Aloysius Yap in a semifinal of a U.S. Open. Like, Cheng was the man amongst men, and we were robbed during that time because of lack of whatever, you know what I mean? Whether it was social media or, a global platform to be able to showcase like the talents that were around all over the world. And, but like, it was him, and it was like Anton, even though Anton was really young, there was like a few guys that we had heard stories, there were guys who just like the legends would talk about him. The Carlo Beatos would talk about him. the biggest names in the sport will talk about him, and they're like, you got to see this guy. And he was the one that, like, why I became a fan of international pool players, if I'm being honest with you. And that delivery, like you mentioned, as far as fundamentals, like that was something that, a lot of the Taiwanese players had. But like, it was also for Chang, for me watching him, was just how determined he was at the table, and how much respect that he had, not just from his peers, but what he gave the game when he was playing the game, and I know, like, breaking character, and I love personality and all these things, but like, he was never out, he was always in it. And that match against Shane just really epitomizes both of who they are, for me, and before all these, before we were afforded like 9-ball and WNT and Pro Billiard Series and all these things, like 10-ball was the test. 10-ball in big set 10-ball was the measuring stick, and that's how you prove to have your reputation. And he was one of the few that also gambled, as well. And I've heard many a story. I've heard many a story of like guys just going to Taiwan and just playing them $100-$200 sets over and over and over again just to get sharp. Aloysius Yap comes to mind, and now look at the player that he is, and Cheng's a big part of that. And like, as the day goes on, I see your story on Billiards Digest, and I'm like, and then I think about, man, I start reading about how much playing for his country meant to him. Then I see Rita Chow's post and what he meant to her career. Like, the guy's got an imprint all over this industry, and there's
well, especially with the Asian players, it's obvious that he was the idol that they all looked up to. He was the guy that they always pointed to as he's the leader of the pack. If you saw Johan Chua's post, he talks about how I changed my game to stand like you. I changed my game to shoot like you. I changed my game to have a pre-shot routine like you. And so yeah, I mean, the respect for him from all the players, it was just, hard, impossible to miss. I mean, you just felt it. You just saw it.
Yeah, not to be lost in all this. I mean, the guy's a father. The guy's a husband, from what I understand as well. And that's a whole other layer. The guy's 40 years old, Mike. I'm 39. Like, goddamn, that's just that kills me to hear. You know what I mean? And to think about, and especially him doing what he loves to do. And probably getting sharp for a world championship run. And even as the world really, really opened up over the last few years in terms of pool and getting a little bit more organized, like, even though it had been a few years since his 9-ball final and over 10 years since his World 8-ball championship, like, if he's in a tournament, he's always going to be a top 7 favorite, and
yeah, for sure.
and early on, as things started getting bigger, like, he was a top, 4 favorite, and the guy was just ruthless on the pool table. From seeing posts, sounds like he had a heart that was big, way bigger than his pool game ever was. And yeah, it's a sad day for the pool community, and especially hearing that this happened, while he's out there competing. I couldn't even imagine, Mike, being out there. I'm seeing like Dennis Graves saying, I was just playing next to you this morning, and Kazakis saying the same thing. And, Alex is a new father, you know what I mean? And, yeah. And it's like all these different layers to losing someone, and you just realize like how fragile life is, and you just never know, right? Like, when your number's going to get called, you just never know. And hopefully his family handles it as best they can, and my heart just goes out to them, and everyone else that's involved and has been touched by this man. And he was a legend. He's a fierce competitor. I have the world of admiration from him. And real quick before we move on here, but when I posted on Windows Open, when I was watching international pool online, I remember watching this Vietnamese, and it was like their version of YouTube, and I found it, and I started watching things live, and I don't know what the hell was going on. But then of course I recognized games, right? I recognized 9-ball, recognized 10-ball, these things. But I remember seeing Chang, and how I would hear about international companies was because the patches they were wearing, you know? And so I remember seeing him with the Longasi patch, and that's why I was like, well, what is this company? And I'm searching online, and I'm like, okay, it's Tip Company. And that was like one of the first business deals that I did was with Google Translator and a friend of mine who was Taiwanese, you know, to help me out along the process. But it was because of Chang, you know, and that's why I started like doing stuff like that and buying from players and meeting players and interacting with them, was because of him. You know, I was an instant fan right away. Um, you know, you feel like he had so much more left to prove, and you know, he over the last few years of getting caught up in the mix of, you know, the fillers and the fetters and FSRs, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, they're all standing now in his shadow, you know, and just showed what it is to be a fighter and to compete and have respect for the game. And so, yeah, I'm just, I don't know, man. It's a wild day
Yeah.
to hear and wake up to, and seeing all the, and you can just tell from people online, all the players who are just giving the man all the respect in the world, and realize the
Right.
impact that he really had globally, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just it's going to take a while, even for the players, for it to sink in that, you know, when they go to the next tournament, he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, especially like I said, especially the Asian players who are so used to traveling with him or being among, you know, being him being there. So yeah, just yeah, not a good day. It hasn't been a great, you know, it's been a tough last 3-4 weeks. You know, with uh, Joe Salazar, Greg Huemaker,
It's a whole, yeah. You saw Joe everywhere you went, Mike. I saw it.
yeah, and Terry Bell, and so yeah, just tough month for Poole.
Hug your loved ones. Tell people how important they are to them. Don't take things for granted. You know, first thing I did when I woke up, and as soon as I figured she might be awake, was call my girls. You know, and you know, it just kind of puts things in perspective as far as the important things that are really going on in life. But
Yeah,
anyhow, make Chang rest in peace, and I'm sure this won't be the last time we speak about him. But
yeah, no, sure, yeah,
I want to just transition, Mike, as best we can over to the women's World 8-ball. And you know, you were out there in Green Bay, and I want to just get your thoughts on how it was, and obviously Jasmine pulling off a great dramatic final, and
yeah.
give me your thoughts on that inaugural event, and how it all went down out there in Green Bay.
It was great. It was great. I give a lot of credit to you know, WPBA and Dean, to, you know, the sponsors. You know, Olhausen stepped up, you know, big there. You know, there was a
And they
really
have been
concerted
lately,
effort.
Mike. It feels like it seems like over the last
Yeah, they
like
have been. They've been
9
involved,
months.
especially with the women a lot,
Yeah.
and then the Oneida tribe up there in northern Wisconsin. You know, big backers of the event. So big for women's pool, big step for women's pool in the U.S. to have a marquee event like that in the U.S. and to make a big deal out of it. It was really run well. It was really you know, a nice arena, a nice setup. Um, you know, all the top players were there. You know, it was a nice, really nice prize fund. So it's something that they can build on. You know, because I think a big event like that, a world championship, having good buy-in from sponsors like that is going to help American women's pool, right? It's kind of this trickle down. It's one more aspirational thing. It's one more thing for the younger, you know, women players in the U.S. to be part of, to watch, you know, because that's, you know, we need the women's game in the U.S. to step up a little bit, right? And it's kind of a youth movement right now. But the more opportunities they get, the more stages they get, the more visibility there is. It's all gonna, you know, it's all gonna be good. So from that standpoint, it was a terrific event. I think they've got, hopefully a 2 or 3 year deal, I think, to
I
run
was
the
gonna
event.
ask that,
Hopefully
Mike.
it'll
What's the
stay in
commitment
Green Bay.
like?
I think it's like PA. Now, whether Oneida comes back in and backs it again next year, and they have it in the same spot, that's something I'm sure still needs to be fleshed out after they shake everything down from this event and see how they did, what their expectations were, what their measurables are, things like that. And then see where the women's World 8-ball lands next year. But it's nice to know it'll be in the U.S. for the next 2 or 3 years. And again, they did a really nice job of making it a first class event, and it was really good. And the play was great. It was kind of the usual suspects in terms of, you get down to your final 16, and unfortunately there's no American women in the final 16, and you get, the Asian and European heavy hitters in there, and it was all those usual suspects, both Christinas and your Pias and your Ritas and your Weiweis and Seao and Jasmine and Cheska and that whole group. Matches were terrific. The standard of play I thought was really pretty high. The final match, Jasmine, she really hung in there all week. Not throwing shade on or anything, but I thought she's got a pretty good shot here to get to the finals. She had, if you look at who she beat along the way, it was a pretty favorable draw down to the semifinal, where I think she played Christina Zlateva. So, and then Cheska in the final. Still, she had to play great in those matches to win, and she did. She played great all tournament. The final match, Cheska most of the way by a game, and then it got to be a couple of games, and then Cheska fought back. But I think literally, I think they each missed one ball in the whole set.
They missed one ball the whole set, each of them?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a stat in a final.
Yeah, it was really good. The level was really high. They made, a couple of positional, a couple of safety, plays that someone leaked out, things like that. But actually shooting at a ball for a pocket, I think they each missed one. And they were not the easiest shots in the world. So it was really good standard of play. It was exciting. Got down to the hill. Jasmine broke and
she can feel a little heat, can Jasmine? We've seen it before over the course of her career, but she also has championship pedigree as well.
She can, but by the same token, I'm watching, and you're watching, Cheska play, and she's firepower personified. I mean, she's the female version of but by the same token, she plays so fast and loose that a couple times in a match, she's going to get herself out of line. She's going to get, she's going to miss her position. She's going to miss a shot, whatever. So you're always going to get another shot at the table. But when she comes with it, man, she's amazing to watch.
She was like the premier player, for so many years, and still is. Has very much sustained and stayed relevant through results over the last 10 years. And before Albin was Albin, it was always Jasmine's little brother, and that's right, for a reason. Yeah, and but like she can come with it big. I thought it was pretty a pretty exciting event from Sweating from the House and checking out the live scoring and multiple tables to be able to watch, and just the level of talent as well. I thought, if I'm being honest about on the American side of things, I thought it was a lot of dead money Americans in there, which kind of had me scratching my head a little bit. But then,
you thought they might have a little bit of a chance too, because it was 8-ball, and the other women, they don't play 8-ball. They don't, they're not.
None of them do.
Spend much time playing 8-ball. So I thought that might level the field a little bit as far as some Americans go who grew up playing 8-ball the entire time. But talent is talent, and you can throw whatever game you want at them, and they can find they can find through the pocket.
Yeah, there's like a few things that I'll go and like consider when I'm thinking about an event or how a player will fare or whatever. And, obviously one of them is just natural raw talent and their skill set. You know what I mean? And before the days of Fargo, it was all like the eye test. That's the reason why I always joke about it, but it's like
Yeah,
you
right.
just think about what their experience is like in said game. An 8 ball is especially in the women's game very much an afterthought. We really don't get to see them play it at all. And even the top European women that are here in the States now who played European championships for years and years and years, they're not playing that anymore. Margaret and Christina and or both Christinas, I should say. I don't know if Sateva still plays it or not, but my point is that and this is kind of like Monday morning quarterback a little bit, but it's like Jasmine plays that European championships all the time, and so that would be where she would have a little bit of an edge. But then you got all the Taiwanese players who were there who are monsters like a Pearl and a Rita. And then you think about Cheska, who was there. I wish Rubelin would have been there, if I'm being honest with you. But it didn't take away from what a great event that it was, Mike. I thought they showcased it really well. I love the platform in which you can watch it. it being free online, I think just maximizes the exposure level for these ladies and for that event. Hopefully, for the sake of continuing, hopefully that casino got their money's worth as well. What was the fans like, Mike? Was there a lot of people in attendance there last couple of days?
Well, a lot's all relative when it comes to pool tournaments, but no, I thought it was a really they had nice crowds in there. And this is a holiday weekend in northern Wisconsin, and the TV table arena, was nice and full. I think for the finals, there were probably 300 people in there watching.
Solid.
So it was good. They were, it was loud, as loud as it's going to get for an event like that with 300 people. But it was, it was really solid. I was really surprised at how steady the stream of people watching the matches were. And I think the women felt it. Those TV matches, you got into the semifinals. There was some really good atmosphere there. It was really nice.
Did you think she was going to make that 8-ball, Mike?
Who, Jasmine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. She hadn't missed anything the whole freaking match. Why should she miss that? I mean, there was a lot of heat. There was a lot of heat at her. She didn't leave herself the best spot in the world. But
you're hanging on for dear life with that shot, Mike. There's no safety net with that shot whatsoever, and you got Cheska would have been out before you were able to go to the restroom and come back if had Jasmine missed that ball. There was a lot.
That's why you got to make sure you make that ball, because there was no place to hide, and it was just it was sink or swim, and she's been around long enough and has won enough matches where she knows how to be nervous but not be scared, right? So she knew what she was doing. It was interesting. She did say afterwards that purpose the 8-ball in the European Championships, to work of pointing towards this event, and she ended up winning that, I believe. So, she's a pro's pro. I mean, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, that's a good phrase for her, Mike. Pro's pro is right. She definitely treats it like a sport, and you can tell that from her physique and her attention to her diet and her like just her training in general in the gym and the way they approach and all these things, Mike. I mean, she just epitomizes when you think about like, okay, what if you want to say who do you want to go and follow to be that pro's pro? Start with a player like a Jasmine, and you'll be in pretty good shoes here.
Out there, she always has her little, tight long sleeve outfit. She looks like a gymnast.
Yeah.
She's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, so she's still great. I mean, it's 15 years between world championships, so that's pretty good staying power as far as being able to come with it. So
and that's the thing about like women's pool is that like we've had these players that have just sustained through the course of time, which doesn't make sense because a lot of times you'll start seeing these younger players come, and maybe it is coming for the women like it has been for the men all these years, but like Kelly and Allison, who wasn't there, by the way, which was surprising, but like Kelly and Allison, who have just been, who have stood the test of time. Thinking about Jasmine, 15 years removed from a world championship, like that's incredible. Like where did
it is, and
that,
but in the men's the same way. I mean, you will have 2 or 3 or 4 players who defy their age and defy the number of years they've been competing and still compete at that level with the 20 somethings. And Jasmine's one of those.
Yeah, massive congratulations to her. What was the first place payout, Mike? Do you know?
Wasn't it 30?
Was it 30?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember what it. Yeah.
I thought so, but I could be wrong.
You're the journalist here between the two, Mike. You ought to know.
I don't have my.
I'm not going to know. Putting you on the spot, Mike. No, look. I hope they continue it. I hope the fans show up. I hope it becomes more of a staple and a must see for fans, especially in that area. And the Midwest has a pretty good pool community, and so congratulations for them for pulling it off and having it out there. And hearing that the opening ceremony was at Green Bay and seeing photos, it's kind of cool, because it feels more like sport
really
cool. and thinking about the amount of Hall of Famers and legends and of sports that have gone through there is pretty awesome. And so for those women to get that opportunity and like embrace it, which is also great, is not to be forgotten as well. Tyler's in the chat. He says, World A Ball was a great event. Oneida Tribe did an amazing job along with the WPBA. This is my favorite part of the whole show right here, Mike, and I'm sure you can see the comment, but that last little jab at Chipinozo, 30, 18, and 13. Get your stuff together, Mike. So no, it's great for the women.
What did I get ragged on about?
About getting your stats together, Mike. That's what he was
18, 13. That's what I said. 30,000 for first. That was great. Tell him to get off my back.
There you go. I'm sure he's heard.
Second,
and even Margaret, for that matter. Margaret had a great event as well. And the cream really did rise to the top in this event. I thought the bracket was I agree with you in terms of it being favorable to Jasmine, but you still got to go out there and prove, and living up to expectations. There's a lot to be said in terms of that and the pressure that comes along with that and being able to follow through. And believe me, it was far from a cakewalk in that final or the semifinal. She earned it and she seemed super thrilled and couldn't be.
Maya played great. When she beat Christina Takash, she played, jam up. She was in control the whole way.
There was a lot of other stuff going on in the pool world, Mike. I just got back from.
She won 13. She won 13,000, tied for third.
Who?
Just want to make sure you know that. Margaret.
Oh, Margaret. What? Oh, because third, fourth. Is that what you're saying? 13,000 apiece.
Yeah.
So Mike's coming with the stats now, Tyler. Junior Nationals just wrapped up, Mike, and it was the Sophia and Savannah show once again. I don't know if you got to catch any of it. Obviously, I was there front row for all of it, and I want to just get your opinion on how it went down. And
how many events between the BCA Nationals and the BEF Junior Nationals? How many events did Sophia and Savannah play in?
I think everything that they were able to, all things considered, because unlike previous years, they had to choose when it came to like the rotation events that they could enter to in terms of age. So like you couldn't do 18U, 16U, and I guess in Savannah, whatever it is, 14U. So like you had to pick because you couldn't be overlapping. So everything they were allowed to play in, they played in, and shockingly, they did pretty well in, Mike.
Yeah, they medaled. They're great young talents. It was nice to see April Larson win the 10-ball division. That was great. They kind of steal the show to the point of, I'm really I don't recall reading a whole hell of a lot about the male players in the juniors.
Here's the thing when it comes to the male players, and this isn't just in regards to, just in regards to American male junior players. There's a lack of personality in pool in general, like a serious lack of personality in pool. And so like it's really hard to root for players. Now, me being there, I gotta see a lot of great young boy, like American boy talent. Jamison Gall, Jose Vicente, Hank the Tank was there, and he had pretty well. I mean, we missed Adrian being there. Hayden is going to be an effing monster, and just wait till that kid gets on a bigger stage, because he's the real deal. The kid who he played in the final of the, I think it was not Grayson in the 16U, but I think it was Austin Axe. That kid, I mean, just wastes no time, gets down on the ball and just hits it pure, which, by the way, he didn't even have any TV table time and just got out there and showed out. Like, there's a lot of serious talent. But when it comes to being able to translate that into fans, Gavin's another one. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, Gavin's a young monster in the making in his own right. But like when it comes to like growing and building fans, like you got to have more personality. Like you gotta have some things for people to kind of root for. And so in that aspect,
that's where the women just run over. But you're talking
not
about
even close.
15, 16-year-old guys around building their brand on social media. Okay. And
right.
And
yeah.
I can empathize with that. That's, they got better things to do.
For sure.
So, but then you've got your Sophias and Savannahs and Aprils who really, have built a following through social media and being very active and engaging and all that kind of thing. By the same token, both of those girls could show a little more emotion when they're at the table.
Well, I think they're very much.
When you watch the match between, you can never tell who won and who lost by the handshake. They walk up to each other, they handshake, they spin on their heels, they go in the opposite directions, and they disappear.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a second. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to pump your fist.
I think it's
okay
like,
to do this
I think
stuff.
it's just this fear of somebody getting offended.
Showing the other
up. And maybe like someone taking personal celebration at the expense of someone else's respect. You know what I mean? And I don't think they're mutually exclusive in that regard. And furthermore, like I mentioned a little bit ago, I think like we're in dire straits when it comes to having these rising stars. So like when you have these like perfect storms that come together, it's easy to root for a kid like Savannah because she's bubbly, she's sharp on social media, she's got a great personality, and she plays the game extremely well. And I'm not just saying it by like a junior American Girl standard. I mean like just in general, and so I'm a little biased with especially Sophia and Savannah because I've watched them kind of grow up and over the last 4 years, and so I always kind of personally root for them a little bit more. But there's a lot of other shining stars even on the women's side of it, like a Jordan Helfrey, who like she's 13 years old. I think she could, thinking that in mind, like with that in mind, I think she could her ceiling could probably be higher than those two girls because I don't think they were at that level whenever they were 13, and so what's the next few years going to shape up like remains to be seen. But I think there is a lot of positives to hang your hat on a personal note. I want to just, before we continue on with this, I want to say just massive shout out to the staff and everyone involved for putting that event together, from the sponsors to everyone who was out there working it, especially like Steve and Mariah and Jose and obviously Shane Tyree, which I hate giving that guy any love, but like it seemed like this year that it was a proper tournament. And I know that it may not have had like all the who's who in terms of junior players, but that's personal choice. And so like, that aside, there were still plenty of things to go and celebrate out there. And I couldn't be more.
It looked like a great setup and a great event. Thought the commentating was a little bit south, but that's all right.
It's low. There's not many options, Mike. You know what I mean? Everyone's kind of burnt out in the week. That's for sure. No, it's we are very lucky to have the opportunity to do that event, and like the covering professional pool and hearing all the pissing and moaning that can go on, and you know, all the negativity that just gets spewed out event after event, like privately, can be exhausting. But to go out to the junior event,
Yeah.
for me, I look forward to it every year because it genuinely like fuels up my gas tank to like keep going, because those kids deserve to have the best opportunities and the biggest stages to go and play on. And a lot of them, you see Hayden there in the chat, like a Hayden, man, that kid's got a ton of personality. I learned that playing Scotch doubles, one pocket, me and Savannah against Collins and Hayden. You know, he's got some jokes and he's got some sarcasm and like you got
Yes, and you
gotta like
grow up around the pool community, and you're playing adults, and you're watching players older than you that you admire and things like that. You're going to grow up. You're going to grow up pretty fast as far as being a smart ass
yeah.
and being able to have some personality and being able to take a shot at someone when they, you know. So yeah, no, you want to see them display that more. And I understand that they try not to go over the top at such a young age, because it maybe is not a great look. But you know, don't be afraid to be yourselves. I mean, that's who we want to like.
Look,
we want to like, you know, kids for who they are. I like the comment about maybe they need more flags next time.
look, there was
That place did look like the freaking
no, but I
UN,
loved it
and
though, Mike.
like someone like raided a flag factory.
I personally loved it, and I had no idea walking into that venue. And I've been there where it was like the junior side of it was like literally half the space, you know, and really bland and no nothing in terms of personality there from like an event standpoint, you know. But when I walked in there, I was just like, holy cow. I mean, this it felt like they put in a year's worth of planning going into that event. And so I couldn't be happier for those kids who did show up. And part of like coming a little full circle here, like they're not out there winning money, right? They're fighting for a chance to represent their country. And like that comment, that post you made about Chang, right? And what representing Taiwan means to him. Those are the
Yeah.
guys I want to get behind 1,000,000% of the time. And this isn't even like and you know me, I'm not the like American Homer, but like the pride that they take in
Wherever you're
representing.
from, it's just pride
Yeah,
and represent. You know where you're
yeah,
from.
man. Like
Yeah.
it means something to those kids, and you kind of have to buy in for the bigger picture. And so for those kids to go out there and compete, there were so many great stories throughout there. You know, hearing talking to Jordan after her heartbreaking match to Sophia, and just the amount of like love and respect that she showed to Sophia after a heartbreaking loss was great. You know, Grayson Vaughn after Hayden just was one of the best sets I've ever seen him pull in general. Not even in terms of junior pool, like I mean, just in general. And Grayson afterwards, with the biggest smile, says, "I'll see you in Spain." And I'm just like, man, that's the kid you want to root for. These are the guys and the girls that you want to root for, and that's why you want to work hard to grow the game. Is because
Yeah.
these
Give them the
when they do show
opportunities.
when they showcase their personalities, Mike, they can be fun, but more importantly, they're good people, you know. And
Yeah.
so it's a really solid combination. And it's not up to where it needs to be. Like there's still a lot of room for improvement from a lot of different aspects of that event, and from just everyone in general. But like there's a lot of positive things to hold on to, and I loved it out there. You know, it usually events like that can drag on, and that's when I'm like, oh god, wait for this thing to be over. That event flew by, Mike. You know, like I'm serious. It really like it genuinely flew by, and except for that last day. The last day was just I hit a wall, but other than that, like being out there for 8 days, it was an outstanding job. Everybody, you know, I couldn't be more happy to be part of that team that went out there, and just all the players deserve the world of recognition and support, you know. And so I can't wait to see these
How many
kids go out
kids are
there.
out there?
I don't know the exact number. I know that attendance was down compared to last year. That much I know. Um, and I think a lot of that, there's a lot of factors in play. You know, the lack of prize money for a player, I'm sure, is a big part of that. But also, like the inconvenience of Quincy and where it's at, I think is also a factor. It being over 4th of July. I mean, there's so many things that you can kind of weigh in on that. And that's why,
Yeah.
like, I can understand all those things 100%. I can, you know, but that's why it makes me even more happy and proud to see these kids who did show up. And, you know, and then it's cool because then they're playing all day and night, right? And then at the end of the event, when all the adults are just, I mean, we look like we just got out of a fight, and all the kids are still there hitting balls, playing pool, and they're all hanging out with one another, you know, and it's just like, and they're still fresh, and I'm just like, what in the world is going on, you know? Um,
You don't
but
remember those days?
yeah, no, I'm sure I pissed off and annoyed my mom quite a bit. I'm guessing, and I'm sure she would agree. Um, but no, it was great. Brian Murphy says the PBIA instructors, that was another part of it too. I love going out there and seeing those guys like a Dr. Dave and a Sam Diep and you know, Kim Young, who won the Jerry Bryce at the award, and Jerry's another one. I mean, I don't even know how old that guy is, but he was there, like early on
Yeah, no,
before the instructor showed up, Mike, and then he was there sweating the final too. Like, and he was there 9 o'clock at night. I'm looking over, and there he is doing lessons. The last day, he's working with other instructors, and I'm like, good Lord, man! Like, it makes me really embarrassed about myself. You know what I mean? Because the guy's just a warrior, and it's no wonder why
yeah,
he's celebrated the way he
no
is. You
quitting
know?
him. Yeah, he was up in
No,
he was in Green Bay at the Women's World 8 Ball, and he was by outside the arena where they had a table set up, and he was working with kids and adults all day long. You know,
yeah.
he never quits.
There's like a really solid core group of people that like are doing things for the right reasons, you know, and Jerry's one of them, you know, and so and hearing the instructors like on that note just talk about their passion for the sport and why they want to teach, you know, because it takes a certain human being to be able to teach, Mike. And you know, this comes from like I got aunts and my mom and a house full of people in education. And I'll never forget, like during COVID, when my girls came home and I'm having to do lessons with them, I was about ready to lose it, man. You know what I mean? Like it was brutal. And so, but, but it really allowed me to have that much more respect for educators and trainers and people in that field because you got to have a lot of patience and be able to adapt quickly on the fly to different personalities along with that. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, all in all, it
yeah.
was just there was so many things going on. I will say one thing, and I told Shane Tyree this as well. Like, if this is where you're at, right? Like as far as the event goes, you can't go back, right? You can't go back to the days of, of the way it was
Yeah, no
four
steps
years
back,
ago.
of course.
You know, so
Well,
hopefully they
speaking
can.
of speaking of building and developing it, tell me about the new U.S. Nationals. As far as having a national champion in 8 ball, a national champion. Well, Bryce was 88 years old.
Good Lord, that guy's got more
88.
energy at 88 than I got at 39. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's unbelievable. Um, Yeah, no, the Masters
But yeah,
event, that was the national championships as they dubbed it, um, was surprising going into it because it kind of came together last minute. Big shout out to Masters who helped put the event on, you know, because they've been around for forever and it was great. And as an industry altogether, it's been great to see more companies, hop on in. But to put up 20 grand and for them divided amongst 4 events, 5,000 each one of them was awesome. If I'm being honest with you, severely disappointed by the lack of players that went and showed up. But at the same time, and I'm sure you can talk more about this. You know, they've been screwed over year after year from the BCA, so I'm sure they have their reasons why they don't, why they didn't buy in or
uh,
attend, and I'm sure the calendar is a
yeah,
part of that as well.
I think that a lot of it had to do with kind of the late announcement. Certainly, not a prize fund that you're your way and travel to Quincy.
Right.
And for some of our top players, they're going to get invites into the World 10 ball, the World 9 ball, things like the World 8 ball, things like that. So, I don't think for most anti BCA thing, it's just okay. Next year, with a little more planning, with a little more advance notice, with maybe a little better fit into schedule over when it is and where it is, and add a little bit more money to it, and then you start to build. But like I said, it's something you build on year from now. So if you want this to be a staple thing, we have a national champion, just like all the other countries do. And that's how we pick one of our representatives to the World Championships. Then, players will start to show up, start to play. This was just let's establish it first.
Yeah.
Get it up and running, and then go from there. So
I think if things can kind of stay peaceful with everyone, and having these proper ways to get spots in world championships, then it's great to see turnout, and hopefully over the next coming years they'll get more support in terms of players showing up. And like I said, there's a number of different factors, and you hit on a bunch of them. The late announcement, Quincy's, it's not convenient to get there, and so but like when I hear about like an SVB talk about getting a spot in the World 10 ball, right? And I get it because you're Shane and you paid your dues, and players like that, I get it. But he's far and few between. He's the exception. He's not the rule, So like everybody else, you have to go and earn it. And whatever you think you've done to this point isn't enough to earn it. I see players like Ko Ping-yi and Ko Ping-chung go through qualifiers to enter into the World 10 ball. That's how much they want it. But some other players will be like, well, I don't want to go through qualifiers, So it's like either you want it or you don't. And I get it. Like, it's not ideal. It's not ideal in terms of prize fund, location, announcement, all these things. But if they're telling you, hey, you go through this way, you'll be able to do it. Well, go and do it, and if it means something to you, then you'll make the effort. But
on here, what was his opposition to qualifying for a World 10 ball?
I imagine he was close. He was close to the area for sure. But it seemed like, and I saw on his social media where he was dipping out overseas. So I don't blame him for taking off a couple of days right before, and that's part of where the announcement comes into play. I think that it's got a lot of potential, and I hope they continue it. But there has to be, like, as much as the players want more money and more this and more time and all these things, like, pool is not where you think it should be, and it's not going to get there with any one promoter or one player piggybacking all these things or shouldering it, I should say. As a collective, like, everyone has to buy into it, and so if you're an American player and you want more money and more status and more recognition and sponsorships and all these things, hey, listen, you got to go out there and get the worst of it sometimes before it gets better. And that's just where we are as a sport right now, whether people want to admit it or not, but it's a great start. Like I said, I want to see, I love the idea of seeing the players who are willing to do it, go out there and get an opportunity. And you never know, Mike, you can go and parlay that into a world championship run. Ryan Su from Taiwan, was in a World 8 ball final just recently, and you couldn't pick him out in the lineup. The average fan couldn't anyway, and so you can get in through qualifiers. Like I mentioned, the Ko brothers going in Vietnam and going through qualifiers to get a spot in the World 10 ball because of all that WPA, Matchroom, all these things where you're not getting a WPA spot. Points. Yeah, but they still want it. You know what I'm saying? And they're willing to go out there and go and make it happen. So there's definitely something to be admired there for sure. So there's a lot more stuff going on.
Well, he's got 12 months to build a campaign for next year. So
for sure. There's a lot more stuff going on in the pool world, Mike. I think we're a week away from the biggest event in our sport. I don't know who's playing in it because I haven't.
All the players now are either in Indonesia or they're in Dubai playing in the night. The event over there, Night Shot. Is that what it
is? Yeah.
So everybody's getting tuned up for the World Pool Championship.
I'm excited for it, Mike.
And
I said I'm real excited for that event. $250,000 to the winner, decent payouts. It was always like the redheaded stepchild in terms of world championships, just as far as the platform, but it was always like the number one and the crown jewel in terms of the prestige. And now it seems like the money's kind of risen along with the notoriety of it. But
Yeah.
I saw online, they were going to be doing something at Spots and Stripes out there in the UK was Matchroom, and they were going to do the draw for the Florida Open. And help me understand here, Mike, is the Florida Open happening before the World Championships, or what am I missing here, Mike? Because we're 8 days or so removed.
I can only guess that there's some, still some holes to fill in the World Championship field, whether it's through the WPA, whether it's through the Saudis. I mean, the Saudis get spots. Right.
Yep.
And knowing by how long it took them to announce the dates and put out a flyer on the event, it's about these kind of, that their Ministry of Sport and or Billiard and Snooker Federation drag their feet a little bit too. So those things, I'm sure that I think that if the field was all set, they would want to do the draw as early as they can, or, do it at a point where they can,
I'm good with the draw happening the day of the draw. Don't get me wrong, it's great for like chopping up and the pregame stuff and all these things, right? Like and by the way, we're gonna go over the draw in another show once it does eventually come out. But I just want to know who's playing. That's it. Like, I don't care if there's more names TBA or more names to be added or what, but I just want to know who's going. And a week away from an event, while you're promoting another one that's happening after, and that draw's coming out, I have a hard time getting there, Mike, as far as it kind of making sense,
I think that, like I said, I think there's got to be some holes to fill, things like that. I mean, you guys, I don't know if you did or no, was it Shark Stream did talk to Lucas after the Nationals, and he was like, I don't know if I would go all the way to Saudi Arabia to play in the event and yada yada. And there's a lot of this back and forth. And then I see yesterday or today, he's going. So did he not even have that interview? And now did he get a spot offered to him? Did he, or did so? I think there's a lot of between players not knowing whether they can afford to go or want to make that kind of trip, man, all the spots committed to by other players who are still trying to decide whether they want to go over there. There's, you don't want to come out with a draw that has, 24 TBAs, right?
Yeah.
There's one or two. Yeah. There's one or two. That's one thing, but if it's a bigger number, you kind of avoid it.
I can understand that, yeah, I guess we'll just have to see whenever it gets announced. And I know last year they had a pretty good amount of Saudi players attend, and I get that from them putting on the event and all these things. And then I think, what is it, Mike? Yeah. Like they get 100 spots to the top 100 WNT, and then they kind of go down from there as far as who turns it down or whatever.
100 WNT automatically, get a spot, but do they all take them? Where some people, Sky's not going, right?
Is he not going? This is news to me.
Isn't he getting married?
Really? I mean, I know he's getting married, but is he not going to the World Championships? Because I know I saw him going to Ultimate Pool event.
The word I had gotten was that Sky wasn't going, Billy wasn't going. But I haven't seen it. Like I said, we haven't seen any kind of player list yet, so we don't know. We haven't seen any of them post anything saying, yes, I'm going, no, I haven't. So it's just speculation, hearsay, whatever. So,
well, what do you make of that? I'll ask you, Mike. What do you make of if in fact neither of those two players are playing? What do you make of
that? People are having to make decisions over what kind of money they're going to spend to go certain places these days.
Well, if it don't make sense to go to $1 million prize fund, then how the hell is it going to make sense to go anywhere else, Mike?
Well, possibly if you're getting married, I don't know.
Well, yeah, no. Listen, if that's the case, then for sure, God bless them. You know what I mean? Your marriage is only going to happen hopefully once in your lifetime.
And maybe Billy's the best man. Who knows? If Billy's the best man, then you got another problem there.
Yeah. Okay, I can understand that.
So who knows? We both we both starve for people to make commitments, whether it's Matchroom telling us who's playing, whether it's players telling us whether or not they're going. We just want answers.
Yeah, I think like that's got massive implications, because then it's like, well, then how is that going to affect Mosconi Cup points down the road? And you would have
Mosconi Cup points? We haven't heard anything about Mosconi Cup this year. They're doing points. They're going to have a captain. Does Sky get a captain? Then he doesn't have to worry about points. We know nothing of that stuff.
You would figure after hearing that if he's captain, then what's the incentive for going out there and spending $5,000 to go out there to Saudi when you already got 20 guaranteed on the back end, right?
That would be one answer. And on our WP, let's go another direction. WNT points mean all that much if there's no World Pool Masters, if there's no World Cup of Pool? Should we go in that direction too?
Right, all the invitationals that there's no invitations for these days.
Questions, Mike, but we do this every couple of weeks. We talk about all the unanswered questions out there, and
well, I'm surprised that I'm like, some players I get not going, right, and like I listen. There's a lot of like come to Jesus that certain players have to have in terms of what's the reality of them going deep in an event filled with world-class players, and some people don't want to be honest with themselves. I understand that. I get it. You know what I mean? And if more importantly, if you're living your dream, go get after it. You know what I mean? Who the hell cares what anybody else thinks? But a guy like Sky, he would be a top, in terms of American fanfare, he would be a top 3 rooting favorite. You know what I mean? From Federer, SVB, and then Sky. So for him not going, sure, that's massive. And not to mention, like you said, I know they had PLP this year, but you brought up World Pool Masters and the World Cup of Pool. It's like, okay, well, how is that going to be affected down the road, or how can you go and spin that down the road? Because if you're telling me he's not going to World Championship in terms of World Cup of Pool, I'd probably think, well, it's probably going to be Federer and Shane being on that team if that event ever does happen. Like so many things kind of come into play when you start factoring in something like that. So I'm pretty surprised. But given the when the event was announced, and if you got something like a wedding planned, I also can totally understand and respect that as well. You don't want to piss off Mama Bear, you know what I mean? Like, for the wedding, like, you know what I mean? So
I get it.
Hopefully we can get more answers rather than just assumptions and questions like we're good at doing, Mike.
Always looking for answers. We got tons of questions. We don't have a lot of answers. That's the story of our life.
Well, that's all right. I'm good with making an ass out of myself and just putting out dumb opinions online. I've been perfectly content in that spot for quite a bit of time.
That's the great thing. That's the great thing about not having answers is you can just sit around here and speculate, and all you want.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just hearing a domino effect like that, my mind just starts thinking about like, okay, well, how is it going to go and affect here and here and here, and hearing like, 2 out of the top 5 players in the Mosconi Cup last year not attending that event is surprising. But for a kid like Lucas, for a kid like Sam being out there, hey, look, all you got to do is have one good event and you're punching your ticket, So because then you can go and play all the other events to, play by the rules and play X, Y, and Z number of events throughout the year. But yeah, I'm pretty surprised hearing that, Mike, if I'm being honest with you. So, yeah, we'll see. That's what I mean. I want to have a players list. I want to know who the hell is going to go, and more importantly, who ain't going to go, So see if you can make it happen, Mike. You know how to shake some trees a little bit. Anyhow, we'll have more stuff over the next coming days. I want to do more like individual recap shows, like of the junior nationals and all that, more in depth, and talk to more and more players. There's no lack of pool coming up in the next couple of weeks or for the next few months, actually, Mike. So you're not going to want to miss it.
Yeah,
We'll have I want to get Mike's pick for the World Championship. Oh yeah. Are you going to any one of them? Are you going to the Florida Open, or are you going to go to the U.S. Open? Oh, good. Finally, you're going to do some work around here.
Florida Open's tougher swing for me time-wise, dates-wise.
Yeah. Well, I hope for the sake of that event that fans go and show up, because Mosconi Cup was pretty awesome last year out there in Orlando. And all I heard online from American fans were, oh, we need more American events. And even from third, fourth tier players, oh, we need more American events. We need more American events. Well, you know what? Your ass better here now. Yeah.
Yeah, get in there. Yeah, Florida, there should be a lot of fans around Florida to watch those events. So, let's fill it up.
And especially now that hearing that domino effect, Mike, like I mentioned about Sky and Billy not going, hey, you know what? There's your chance to go and put yourself right in the running 6 months into the competition. You have a couple of good events. Hey, you can go get after it, Mike, and make your dreams happen. So, anyhow, it's been a weird day, Mike, for a lot of different reasons. But I want to just end the show with saying, our thoughts and prayers are with Chang Jun Lin's family, and just don't take anything for granted. And it sounds very cliche, but in the pool world, that's very much reminded today, because things can change in the blink of an eye. So
an instant. Yeah.
Anyhow, Panozzo, I appreciate you for coming on the show, especially a little bit late notice. All of you guys who hung out with us, thanks for hanging out. Big shout out to all of our sponsors who helped make the show possible. We couldn't do it without them. We'll have more stuff in the coming days. I'm going to be trying to do shows like as many days as possible this week. So keep your notifications on, and we'll see all you guys and gals real soon. Later, y'all.